Welcome to the NRW.Global Business Fireplace WebTalk, this time on digital transformation in the chemical industry. My name is Georg Löer, and I'm the representative director, president of NRW Japan KK, and we brand ourselves as NRW Global Business Japan since November last year. I'm very pleased and honored to welcome you all to this event, our first web talk this year. And I would like to thank, first of all, the German Research and Science Center Tokyo, DWIH Tokyo, for supporting this event. I would also like to welcome our colleagues from NRW Global Business GmbH in Düsseldorf. And of course, I would like to welcome the speakers of today's event. We have from Cologne, actually today in Krefeld, Jörg Helwig, Chief Digital Officer of LANXESS. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And we have from Tokyo, Mr. Uramoto, Executive Officer and Chief Digital Officer from Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings Group. Again, welcome and thank you for joining us today. And we have Mr. Mitsuru Idie from the Japanese startup MI6 Limited. From Tokyo also, he's Executive Officer and Vice President, Head of Data Science. Thank you for joining us today. Without much further ado, I will now give a little bit of introduction to today's event and some procedural information. Let me show you our event schedule. First of all, welcome, agenda and introduction. Then we shall hear Jörg Helwig's presentation on digitalization as opportunity for established industries. We will have a short opportunity for 1 or 2 questions and then move over to Uramoto-san's presentation on digital transformation, DX initiatives in a chemical company. Again, a little bit time for 1 or 2 questions, and then we move over to Idie-san, who will present the topic de novo materials search by orchestrating informatics and robotics. NRW Global Business. We were born anew on the 1st of November 2020, now bringing together the investment promotion business of NRW Invest and the trade promotion business of NRW International, and we are confident that we can serve you even better than we have done up to now. Chemical industry. Of course, this is a very important topic for us, for North Rhine-Westphalia, also, of course, for Japan, because we have a strong chemical industry, and this is just a little bit of a sign here. On the right-hand lower side, you see the former mayor of Düsseldorf, Thomas Geisel, with the head of Asahi Kasei and the head of research and development of Asahi Kasei in front of their new building in Düsseldorf. This is our team. Most of you will already be familiar with us, and this is what we do. Our focus for Japanese companies is, of course, mainly promoting investment in Germany, in North Rhine-Westphalia, and for NRW companies now promoting trade business with Japanese companies in Japan. Our approach is to understand the client. And for this purpose, we try to always see what are the current issues, what are the markets doing, what are the products, what are the technologies and companies, industries and competences. We use our excellent network we have in Germany and in Japan to serve our clients and to enable our client to create his or her success story. Now, why would you want to choose NRW, North Rhine-Westphalia? Well, there are lots of reasons, but I always say, well, you go there because the market is there. It's a dynamic business location right in the middle of Europe. It's the industrial heartland of Germany. And it's always in motion. It has many of the world market leaders and a lot of hidden champions. So that's why we think that it's an excellent location to do business, and it's a good gateway to Germany. What we do offer also is world-class research and development, and as part of this, offer, of course, talented people. Logistics, of course, is also important. We have an excellent logistics infrastructure, but also, and that's why we're talking about digital transformation today, we're putting a lot of effort to be a future-oriented digital location. And even if you don't like football or soccer, quality of life in NRW is quite good. The Japanese business community knows this already since more than 60 years, and Japanese people enjoy Düsseldorf and other locations in North Rhine-Westphalia. We have somewhere between 650 and 670 Japanese companies in North Rhine-Westphalia. We are Germany's largest state by GDP, population, and we are a very well sought after investment destination with high FDI figures. Here you see that the chemical industry is definitely an important industry for North Rhine-Westphalia. For Germany, of course, as a whole, but here you see it's really important for North Rhine-Westphalia, which is why we take good care of you. Here's an overview of the top 50 companies. We have many hidden champions, and of course we have excellent Japanese chemical companies in North Rhine-Westphalia. Here you see a selection of these companies, and on the call today we actually have quite a few people from these companies, and of course we have Mitsubishi Chemical already there for many years. Today we're here with LANXESS, and LANXESS is a global player, a very important player for North Rhine-Westphalia. But you see that we also have other important and very excellent players who are in this industry in North Rhine-Westphalia, and that's why we're very happy to have Georg here today. But it's not just North Rhine-Westphalia. We're kind of in a chemical region which goes even beyond North Rhine-Westphalia and connects to the Netherlands and Belgium. So here you see that this is really the center of the chemical industry in Europe. Of course, there are other important locations, but here you have a lot of chemical business and R&D available. This is an example for trilateral cooperation with firms such as these, very important. And of course, you will have heard that we have many state clusters. We also have a chemical cluster, and we have chemical parks, and we have the Verband der chemischen Industrie also sitting in Düsseldorf. They can be a big help for Japanese companies if you are planning to go to Germany or to expand in Germany and do business in North Rhine-Westphalia. I mentioned the universities. We have more than 70 universities, and as you see the stars, those are universities which are especially strong also in the chemical field, and I just wanted to mention this. Research in the chemical industry, yeah, I think maybe the experts can tell me, I think up until 2010-12, we saw a decrease, at least in the EU. I think this has to do with outsourcing a lot of research, changing the research model and so on. But you see, since then, it is relatively stable, and a very high percentage is still invested into research and development. I think that's a very strong sign for the European and German chemical industry. Our state, of course, supports these activities in numerous ways, and that's why we are grateful to have the Ministry of Culture and Science also on board. Startups, yes, also in NRW, although you will see that the chemical and pharma business, biology business, startups percentage is not that high, but we are supporting startups from many areas, and we have taken several startups to North Rhine-Westphalia. They are doing their successful business over there. Now, today we're talking about digitalization in the chemical industry, and I think one of the key words is circular chemical industry. And to achieve the goals which we have set together with the United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals, I think it's very important that we use the tool of digital transformation. And now Jörg Helwig from LANXESS will tell us a little bit more about what LANXESS is doing in this field. So, Mr. Helwig, let me shortly introduce you. You go back quite a while to the chemical industry, having worked for LANXESS, Reliance Industries, and Bayer, and you have worked in the US and in India, but we are very happy to hear that you have been to Japan many, many times, and you like this country, and we hope to see you here on site soon. And you're the leader of digital transformation at LANXESS. And I think we should mention that you also are the founder of a startup company, Chemondis, which is a very interesting venture and startup in Cologne. But please, here is your Japanese CV, and now the floor is yours.
Löer-san, thank you very much. Ohayou gozaimasu, konnichiwa. And thank you very much for inviting me to speak today to the NRW.Global community. Thank you very much for the introduction. I think you mentioned a couple of my career steps. I've been in the chemical industry almost for 40 years. Sometimes scary to look at such a long career. I started my career at Bayer. I worked for Bayer 7 years in Pittsburgh in the US. I also had an opportunity to work for Reliance in India for 3 years, and now I'm at LANXESS. Just short introduction to LANXESS. LANXESS is a spin-off of Bayer. Many people don't even remember this. It's almost now 20 years ago, 2004. We were the first spin-off of Bayer, one of the signs of the evolution in the chemical industry. And we are a specialty chemicals company. We are headquartered in Cologne and have about 15,000 people. We're very global. Our sales for 2020 have not been announced yet, but it's about in the 7 billion euro region as we achieved it in 2019. We are a very special company. What does it mean? We're not in the commodities of chemicals anymore, which is good in these times, especially good also in crisis times. And what we call here a strategy of profitability and resilience really is paying off. What we announced this week via ad hoc message to the capital market is that we just finished in Q4 2020 our strongest quarter in 8 years, which I believe is a very unusual message in COVID crisis times, but it's also a sign of resilience and strength of a company. As you mentioned, I have some connection to Japan. I've been many times to Japan in my private life, but also in my business career. And I have very, very good memories to Japan. I once had a strong relationship to Asahi Kasei, where I sold the fibers business from Bayer to. So I spent a lot of time in Osaka. I spent a lot of time in Tokyo. And over a longer weekend, I even was allowed and able to climb Mount Fuji, which is a lifetime experience. And I very much like Japan, like Japanese food, and hopefully can come back sometime soon when the COVID crisis and the travel restrictions are over. A little bit about the LANXESS portfolio. As I said, we are a specialty chemicals group. We are structured in 4 different segments, and we have products, high quality, basic and fine chemicals. We have hydrocarbons, we have benzoyls, polyols, organic metallics, inorganic pigments. It's very special to me because there was a business I ran last before I became Chief Digital Officer. This is kind of making the world more beautiful because it's color, it's coloring concrete materials, paints and coatings, plastics, and a lot of functional pigments. In the specialty additives group, we have lubricants, which are synthetic films and fluids. Polymer additives are bromine and phosphorus products, mostly used as flame retardants. We're a world market leader in this field. And Rhein Chemie is a specialties, rubber and plastics and pigments dyes group. In consumer protection, one of our flagships now in segments and the most and fast growing. Liquid purification technologies is ion exchange resins, water chemistry, material protection products, very, very important, active ingredients, preservatives, and disinfectants. You may even have seen Virkon as a trade name because Virkon is very much used now against COVID, so you can disinfect large areas, offices, and so on with that highly effective product. And Saltigo is a customized manufacturing exclusive synthesis plants we are having especially in Leverkusen. Engineering materials, engineering plastics for the automotive industry, and urethane systems, customized polyurethane systems. So many different products, many special products. We are supporting these business units with our group functions, with our country organizations. And we try to operate, and we do this very successfully in a very entrepreneurial way. So the business units are pretty independent in how they are operating in their markets, how they're organized. We are very customer focused, and we don't have one size fits all organizations. Whatever is needed for the markets, we do, and we have excellence in production and technology. So we are proud of what we're doing, and we have been very successful. I am a Chief Digital Officer, but when I announce my title, I always say I'm not a techie. I'm not a IT person. I'm a business person. And when Matthias Zachert, our CEO, asked me some 3 years ago to become Chief Digital Officer of LANXESS, I immediately saw this as a business project. So what does it mean? We must bring digital technology into our company, and we need to combine it with our vast domain knowledge, our knowledge of chemistry. LANXESS, coming out of the Bayer Group, has invented chemistry 150 plus years ago in many fields. And so when we look at our digital journey, our digital transformation project, on the left-hand side, you see here on this slide the normal functions, normal areas of a chemical company. You have research and development, you have then production, you move this material via supply chain, and then you go into marketing and sales, and then you have all general administration functions which are there. So we started to look at our digital transformation in terms of how can we get this done. And we made a couple of decisions up front, and Matthias Zachert, being a very progressive and very visionary CEO, he said, I would like to bring technology in. I don't want to have any barriers. We must be courageous. We must be also fast in doing that. And we also are willing to spend money. The second decision was that when I formed my group function for digital transformation, we said we don't want to have a very large central unit somewhere sitting in the LANXESS Tower at a beautiful Rhine River location. We just want to stay with a small and knowledgeable group, but so we created what we call a digital driver community in our company. So we earmarked more or less people in all divisions, in all functions, in all regions, and named them digital drivers. We taught them a little bit more. We gave them a little bit more information, but it gave us the chance to go deep into every business field and get the pain points from the business, meaning that there were a lot of ideas where with digital technology we can improve an already pretty well situated business. And that worked very well. My job was also at the very early beginning of my Chief Digital Officer career to dive very deep into the ecosystem, the new digital ecosystem. I love to network in my analog job as business unit head, And I realized I have to do the same to meet people, to understand what's out there, also to understand what's the difference between a startup company and a established large corporation. And you saw from the title of my presentation that I immediately not just saw the risks, what's happening, because many times people talk about digital transformation as a risk and what else is coming there to us. It's a huge opportunity for us if we are open enough and if we embrace on these new opportunities. And that's why I got into contact with a lot of companies out there, talked to a lot of people, spent a lot of time, and realized networking in the digital world is the same way working as in the analog world. It's the same a personal relationship you have to build up. The only difference is it's faster. So when I came back from my trips to Asia or to the US or Israel or London or Munich, and in my old job, I had the same message like, yeah, I called you back and I'll send you some information. And I had 4, 6, 8 weeks to do that. In the digital world, after 2 or 3 days, the first phone call came in, or the chat via Slack or any other methodology, you wanted to call and you wanted to send information. So you have to be faster. The digital world does not have that time what we usually had in the analog world. So a big learning curve for me to also become not as perfect as I used to be as a German, to look at 100% and then send the information. Sometimes 80%, sometimes 50% of information is enough to keep this channel open. And then we started to look at all these digital transformation steps, which you see on the right-hand side, which also helped me was my experience in Japan, because what I learned in Japan was not to create this huge, sophisticated plan and talk about this months and months, but go step by step. Just try a little bit and have the first success, enjoy the success, be motivated, and go the next step. So that's what we did. That we started to look at technology. We found technology, we looked for partners, and then we started to pilot these technologies with these partners. And then there was a rule: if it's working, great. Then we can scale it up fast to the LANXESS world, to all the plants, to all the businesses. If it didn't work, then we just let go and go to the next thing, and do not spend too much time on checking whether it's really not working. Fail fast. One of the big speeches from the digital world is really good, because there's so much out there. I found great companies, I found great technology, but they just didn't work for us in the chemical industry. They didn't work for us as a large corporation. But then we found different things, and we tested them and used them, especially in data analytics. We have had great success. We are working, for example, with Palantir, a Palo Alto, Silicon Valley-based company, to use their technology, their algorithm, their AI, to analyze vast amount of data, which is coming either out of our systems or out of other sources. And then we combine it, connect these dots, and run different processes. Let me give you an example. We look at production plants, and usually a production plant has a technical capacity, and then you have a long-term 5 or 10-year schedule, and you realize that you never get 100% out of this production plant, because you have downsides, you have cleaning, you have maintenance schedules, you have perhaps raw material shortages, you have market changes, and so on. So over a period of time, you tend to say, okay, if I have 100,000 tons and capacity, and I get 90,000 tons out, this is just normal, this is fine. But we started to look at perhaps these 10 or 15% which are not coming out of the plant. And if you have a plant which is fully utilized, where the market is strong, then every 1 percentage point you get out of these things, you can make money with, and you can increase your profitability. And that's how we did this. We looked at data, we visualized the data, we let our data scientists and our Palantir partner work together with our chemists and engineers, visualize the data, and then had kind of a ping pong system, many discussions about this. And at the end, we increased this capacity and got a couple of thousand tons more out of a plant. And this is spreading also the word within a LANXESS company and LANXESS production technology community. So suddenly more and more people came to us and said, could you come please to us? We might have also here an issue which we haven't been able to solve just with our chemical and technical knowledge, and we need to have data analytics. The next step we went on, especially in the production areas, is digitizing our operations. In the LANXESS world, we have checklists, and checklists have been more or less on paper for a long period of time. So people go through the plant and they write down what they see, and then they bring it into the production plant. We have procedures which are printed out and so on. And we now bring this on the digital checklist. And we calculated that we have about 400 to 500,000 of these checklists on paper every single day. Now we bring it on tablets and bring the information, the data to the people. We are creating digital twins of our plants to make sure that we have everything digitized and can also have options for debottlenecking measurements, for improvements, process changes, and even building new plants. We automate our business procedures with RPA, robotics process automation, because we have so many tasks in our business every single day, which we can better bring on systems, and then the bots do the job for us and we have time. Time is anyway one of the major advantages of digital transformation, because you have more data in systems, the machines are processing the data, and we don't spend 3/4 of our time to look for data, to search data, to analyze data. We have the data on hand when we can make the business decisions, and that's very, very valuable for us. And it all comes also with a change in digital mindsets. We have to be open for technology. Sometimes we still have these 4 reasons why we don't go on digital transformation. In Germany, in Japan, we have not invented it on our own. We don't have time for this. We have never done this before, and we are successful anyway. And these 4 reasons are all good reasons, but in our times, in crisis times, but also what we have seen in the last years, the markets are changing so fast. We have to be open for technology, because there's so many chances and there's so many changes in the market that someone who faxes in an order today might not have a fax machine tomorrow. It's also demographic change in the workforce, that somebody who's coming new to a procurement job doesn't even know what a fax machine is, and wants EDI and wants to set up systems to have business operating. So this is more or less the journey we have been on. And what we also clearly see is digitalization is also innovation. It takes place at the entire value chain, starting with the research and development over all the other functions to the customer. In R&D, we have been using now algorithms to expedite our development work in our business units, which is also a change in the market. That, for example, in the automotive industry, you used to have years to develop a new plastic application for our large customers. Now, new players come on board. They have an idea how these new products look like, but they only give us 3 months, 4 weeks. So we have to speed up and have to adjust to this new system. Production areas I already talked about, that we can change processes and recipes by using more and more data analytics. In supply chain, we can track our containers much better. We can tell our customer service people by data analytics which shipments might not make it to the customer on time because of any issue which is there, like a container shortage or a strike somewhere in the world or a storm over the Atlantic, whatever. But we can now act before this happens and don't get a call from customer that a container is late. And in marketing and sales, we need to digitize all of our efforts. I will talk about this at the end of my presentation, especially via the startup company LANXESS I founded, came on this. So digitalization is innovation. Innovation is also resilience then against the market changes. And LANXESS has proven that also with digital transformation, with the domain knowledge we have had in our business, we have become way more resilient than we have been. And I believe that's a very good combination, that you use that knowledge you have and skills in the company and now combine it with new technology which is out there. Next slide, please. And the big word has been and still is data. We are convinced that data is the key to bring us forward. We also learned that data itself is powerless. Software itself is more or less useless. You have to combine it, and you have to connect these dots and to bring the data to the people, that we all need more time to make good decisions. We also should not use data anymore to just look into the past, and see now we get the numbers for 2020, and we can analyze it, but it's much better to use the data for future decisions, that I get options out of the systems and can discuss a good business decision, and do not make only a production decision, only a supply decision, only a marketing decision, but I make a good business decision. Data is also there to connect people, to break up these silos, which we definitely have in large corporations, and make people work together. And we actually call this, and we feel this, that we are inspired by data, because we now have a much better view, and we can even see trends earlier. We can move our M&A activities in a different direction. We can move our innovation potential into a different direction, so we can be innovative and creative. Also in terms of what you mentioned, Georg, at your earlier presentation, sustainability, that circular economy is a very large task for us. And I believe we can go a next step, an evolutionary step in our CO2 reduction. LANXESS also has a very aggressive goal that we would like to be carbon neutral in 2040. And by 2030, we would like to be 50% of our carbon emissions as we have them today. So many large tasks which we need to get done via digitalization. Next slide, please. All done by people. I mentioned this already. We do not just have these posters on the walls with change management. We have change activists in our company. We are inspiring our people to do different things, to work more agile. It's a leadership topic as well. COVID actually helped, because on a Monday morning, we were all forced to work more in home office remotely, which also clearly was then the case that people had to make decisions because they could not perhaps reach their boss at the time when a decision was needed to make. And so we empower our people. We spark this entrepreneurial mindset in the company again. And we feel very strong about it. People like the new system. We're not perfect yet. We still learn. We still have to see how the COVID situation is going to change our working environment for good. We're looking at more and more rules and regulations in allowing people to work from home if it's possible, and to have a good hybrid system between working in offices and working at home. So to really a new and additional empowerment of people, and all done also by digitalization. CheMondis, if you can move to the next slide, I start talking about it. When we looked 3 years ago into our marketing and sales digitalization opportunities, we started to look at creating a web shop. But Matthias Zahat very early said, this is not the future. We need to look at platform business. We need to look at diving into this platform economy. And we looked around and we couldn't find anything which pleased us, which was LANXESS quality. So we made a very strange decision. We founded our own company. We called it CheMondis, and CheMondis is a digital marketplace. CheMondis is founded by LANXESS. It's still owned by LANXESS, but it's a separate company. Very, very important. Otherwise, you cannot become a marketplace for an industry if you own and direct it that much. So we keep it separate. We put a lot of domain knowledge of LANXESS into it, but it's a separate company. It's also located in Cologne, but in a completely different office. There's about 50 employees there. It's a software company. A lot of techies are working there. And we founded it in 2018, and now, change from 2020 to 2021, we have 4,000 companies registered, about 20% of the European industry. There's about 22,000 chemical companies in Europe. About 20% of these companies are already registered on CheMondis. We have more than 50,000 products on CheMondis, and we digitize sales. So we bring together buyers and sellers, and they can use the CheMondis platform to do their business. CheMondis doesn't own the material. We are not a distribution company. We are a software company there. It operates fully independent from LANXESS. LANXESS is using it, we like it, but this is creating value for the chemical industry and not only for LANXESS. And that's why it has become so successful it really connects the industry dots, and we're very proud what we achieved. And it tells you, if you are courageous enough, if you have a vision like Matthias Zachert, our CEO, had at this time, you can be extremely successful and build something. This is a new business model, and we never considered to have a software company in our portfolio. We never considered to operate such a company, but now we're very happy to have it. We created value by founding this company, by running this company, but we also accelerated our digital transformation journey, our change in the company, because with Chemondis, I always call it at the LANXESS Tower, I can look into the future. This is the future of the chemical industry, of the chemical markets, and we need to change now to be able to serve the markets, not only of today, but also of tomorrow. Next slide, please. Last slide and last sentence. Hope I could give you a little overview about our digital transformation journey at LANXESS. What we are looking at is we would like to become a data-enabled company, making better and faster business decisions based on data, becoming the digital leader in the chemical industry. And I believe we are not there yet. We are in a good way, and we are excited about this path. And so thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much. Arigato gozaimasu.
Well, Jörg, thank you so much for this excellent presentation. I think we learned a lot on the way, and I think you were quite well prepared for the corona situation, at least from what I hear. But again, you used it as an accelerator to even progress further. And I think the figures we will then hear from your CEO, of course, will confirm the strength of your company. We have one question actually from Tada Fujimoto from Nikkan Kogyo Shimbun. He's in a sense also a techie, very curious and knowledgeable about a lot of technology issues. And he asks, Jörg-san, could you elaborate the benefit of using Palantir's AI technology to your business?
Yes, and it's an excellent question, because it was one of the major milestones for us to start working with Palantir. Palantir, as I said, is a Silicon Valley-based company, and what they have is numerous technologies, analytic tools embedded into one platform. They call it Foundry. What they do, they connect many dots, and we use Palantir to take data out of our systems, for example, process control data, our ERP, SAP data, our CRM data, our lab data, our market data, and so on. And with that Foundry, we can connect the dots and clearly then run analysis. Where can we get better? Where can we get faster? For example, when you look at an entire value chain, sometimes you have to slow down your production because your lack of containers, or you're making a pricing decision and suddenly you see that this has an impact on your capacity utilization. And in the chemical industry, everything is connected. So we can run way more data through such a system like Palantir Foundry than we were able to do before. You usually do this on an Excel sheet. So you're limiting yourself, and you have a limited amount of people involved in such a decision. Now we were able to involve more and more people in the decision making. Palantir is also a very good system because it's easy to use. We have already more than 1,000 people at LANXESS working on this Foundry, because the front end looks like an Excel sheet. Behind that, very sophisticated algorithms. So you don't have to study informatics. You don't have to be an SAP expert to do this. And people like it because it gives them the freedom to run their data, and the data is also being kept actual every single morning. So if something like a production is running 24/7, and you come in the morning, you have the latest numbers of your stock, of your production, of your supply chain, and so on. And this gives people the time to look at this data without looking for this data. And this is, in very easy words, what we do with Palantir: sophisticated data analytics, AI, moving all the data into one system, and then getting the data out which you need on your daily basis.
Thank you so much. Well, a big round of applause to you for your excellent presentation, and thank you for also the answer. Actually, we have some more questions relating to Chemondis also, but we will take that into the open discussion session, because now we shall move on to the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. Naohiko Uramoto Sensei, we would like to listen to your presentation. And please allow me to give a short introduction. You originally joined IBM in 1990 and were active in R&D on natural language processing, web technology, security, cloud computing. So at a very early time already. And you were CTO of the Bluemix garage in Tokyo. Yes. And in 2017, you joined Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings. And there you're also driving the digital transformation using all tools like AI and IoT technology. And since 2020, the success, I think, of Iwano-san as Chief Digital Officer at Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings. And well, you still find time to be the president of the, or you found some time at the time to be the president of the Japanese Society for AI. And you're still visiting professor at Kyushu University. So lots of activities. Your Japanese CV is here, and now the floor is yours.
はい、それでは始めさせていただきます。ご紹介ありがとうございます。三菱ケミカルホールディングスの浦本と申します。私は長いこと、IT 業界にいまして、ヨークさんと違って、科学業界にはですね、まだ3年、4年ぐらいしか、おりませんで、なので科学の難しい質問は私にしないでください。お願いします。はい、それでは簡単に MCHC、三菱ケミカルホールディングスの紹介をさせていただきます。私は、三菱ケミカルホールディングス、事業会社として三菱ケミカル総合化学の会社ですね。それから田辺三菱製薬、製薬会社ファーマーズ、それから、ヘルスケア領域の、ライフサイエンスインスティテュートから産業ガスを、生産しています日本酸素ホールディングス、ということで、いわゆる化学、それから素材、ヘルスケアという領域で、幅広い事業を、展開をしています。私がいる、デジタルトランスフォーメーショングループは三菱ケミカルホールディングスに所属をしていまして、我々はその三菱ケミカルをはじめ他の、事業会社にデジタル技術を使ったデジタルトランスフォーメーションを支援している、サポートしているということになります。この辺、その取っかかりとして、今、非常にやはり社会とそれから技術が変化をしている。もちろん、もともと日本、その高齢化していき、その労働人口が減っていく。我々、科学産業でさえもやはり新しいタイプの競争にさらされ始めているということがあるんだと思うんですよね。そこで我々がどういうことを例えば、伝統的なものを売る商売からサービスを売るというふうな話が、科学業界でも、製薬業界でも起きている。あるいは、今カーボンニュートラル、先ほどヨークさんもおっしゃっていましたけれども、非常にやはり、重要な問題であり、我々その社会、地球であったり、今の子どもたちの未来に対して、責任を持っていることだというふうに思っています。もちろん今この環境、コロナの環境、本当にその予期しない変化が確実に起こる、ということになってきているわけですよね。その中で我々いかに変化に対応して事業を展開していくのか、あるいは変化に強い体感といいますかね、作っていくかということが非常に重要になってきているでしょう。でテクノロジーサイド、を考えますと、やはり今、本当に事業と、テクノロジー、イノベーションが非常に近づいている事業経営、において、テクノロジー、イノベーションが非常にやっぱり重要な意味を持つ時代になってきたんじゃないかなというふうに思っています。データの、話であったり、それから、AI 技術を、人と機械の関係というものであったり、量子コンピューティングのような非常にイマージングなっていいますか、世界を変えるかもしれないテクノロジーだったり、やっぱりその中でいろんな技術を使っていく中でのいろんな問題というのもできてきているかなというふうに思っています。 これが、私、AI 学会の会長もしておりまして、簡単に今までの AI の歴史を語っているチャートではあるんですけれども、詳しいお話はしないんですが、今、人工知能3つ目のブームっていいますかね、に来ていると思います。でやはり今のブームを作っているのは、やはりビッグデータの存在であったり、それを使ったマシンラーニング、機械学習であったり、深層学習、ディープラーニングだったわけですけれども、やっぱりもう一つのドライバーは、やはりなんて言いますかね、ビジネス応用っていうものが、非常に盛んになってくる。過去の、ブームっていうのは、なかなかやはりビジネスアプリケーションっていうのを見つけられなかったのが、今回のブームっていうのは、本当に企業の中にこういう技術が使われ始めているっていうところが、非常に大きく違うところなんじゃないかというふうに思っています。で、私たち今デジタルトランスフォーメーショングループというチームをやっていまして、これは2017年に設立をされました。私をはじめ結構たくさんの人たちが外から、いろんな組織からやってきて、今でもやはりやはりダイバーシティっていうのが非常に重要だというふうに思っています。チームとしては3つ大きなチームがありまして、テクノロジーチーム、いわゆるデータサイエンティストだったり、エンジニアがいるチームですね。それから特にビジネス、事業部門と一緒にやっている、やはり新しいビジネスモデル、ソリューションモデルを作っていこうというような、人たち、これはいわゆるビジネスアナリストだったり、ビジネスデベロップメントのケーパビリティを持った人がいます。から社外の、ごめんなさい、我々チーム、それから会社の中のデジタルプラットフォームを支援していくというところで、アーキテクトであったりエンジニア、やはり科学会社にとっても製薬会社にとってもですね、アーキテクトっていうのは非常にこれから重要になってくるんじゃないかなというふうに思っています。さらにバーチャルな組織としてですね、センターオブエクセレンス、非常に重要なテクノロジーの技術の蓄積と横展開を図るチームを作っています。今4つありまして、マテリアルズインフォマティクス、後でちょっとご説明をします。それからテキストマイニング、テキスト分析ですね。から、数理最適化、これは非常に昔からあるエリアなんですけれども、今でも非常にやはり重要なテクノロジーだというふうに思っていますし、まさに昨日ですね、プレス発表したんですけれども、4つ目の COE として、画像分析、画像解析の COE というのを作りました。さらに我々のチームと一緒にやっていただく方々で、やはりいろんな事業会社、例えば三菱ケミカルの中にも今、複数の DX に関する組織が立ち上がりつつあります。これは3年前に私たちが活動を開始した時から大きく変わっているところでして、数年前やはり我々のチームしか DX をやっているチームはなかったんですけれども、今はその三菱ケミカル、三菱にも DX を担当する組織だったり、担当者だったりっていうのができ始めていて、今そういう皆さんと協調しながら、役割分担をしながら、我々のチームも小さいですけれども、内製のチームを持っていますし、スタートアップであったり、IT 企業さんと、一緒に、やっぱりスピードが非常に重要になってきますので、いかに早く、変革を行っていくかという観点から、コラボレーションを起こっています。で、これがですね、私たちの、ミッション、我々 DXG、デジタルトランスフォーメーショングループのことを我々 DXG と呼んでいるんですけれども、やはり、ミッションとしてはデジタル技術と知見で変革を実践することで、上に書いてあるところですけれども、MCHC グループ全体の成長を最大化し、顧客パートナー社会に新しい価値をもたらすということで、これをグループミッションとして、掲げています。プロジェクト、ポートフォリオでいうとですね、この3つの、大きな分けがありまして、1つ目がオペレーショナルエクセレンス。やはりデータをいかにビジネス価値に変えていくか。これはいろんな、例えばケミカルプラント の業務であったり、ビジネス事業分の業務をいかに高度化していくか、自動化していくか、可視化していくかということをやっています。典型的にはですね、プラントにおける異常検知であったり、予兆の分析であったりということがありますし、いかにエキスパートの技能を若い世代に伝承していくかというような技能継承のプロジェクトなどをやっています。2つ目がニュービジネスモデルということで、やはり新しいことからもものを作っている企業からことを作る企業、サービス化というところで、いくつかのプロジェクト、例えばサプライチェーンのビジュアライズ可視化、最適化みたいなところから始まり、先ほどヨクさんがご紹介されていましたデジタルプラットフォーム、セールスプラットフォームというのはどうあるべきかみたいな議論もやっていますし、サステナビリティっていうのも非常にやはり我々にとっては重要な問題で、サステナビリティのためにどういうプラットフォームが必要なのか、どうやってデータを集めて分析をしていくかというようなことも考え始めています。ニューデジタルパラダイムっていうのは典型的には例えばコンタムコンピューティングあるいはマテリアルズインフォマティクスのようにですね、今はまだ普及は完全にしていないんだけれども、本当に数年後、こういうものが普通に使えるようになったときには、本当に我々の例えば R&D のやり方が変わる、事業のやり方が変わるかもしれないっていう技術を目利きをしながら、必要に応じて取り込みを行っています。でやはりこういうプロジェクト、私たち複数のプロジェクトを動かしているんですけれども、プロジェクトから得た知見をですね、いかに蓄積して横展開をしていくかということが非常に大事だというふうに思っていまして、これを私たちMCHC デジタルメソッドということで体系化をするということを進めています。これについては後でご紹介をします。それからやはり一番変革の中で変わりにくいのは人じゃないかというふうに思っていまして、やはりいかにデジタルネイティブな人材を育成していくのか、あるいは風土そのものをどう変えていくのかということで、いくつかのプログラムを展開しています。ここではですね、プロジェクトをいくつか簡単にご説明をしますけれども、これはいわゆる異常検知、プラントではやはり非常に私たち石油化学の大きなプラントを例えば持っていますけれども、そこが1日止まると非常に大きな損失が出るわけです。ですので、いろんな機器から出てくるセンサーデータから、その機器の異常をあらかじめ知ることができれば、非常にやはり価値が高いわけですよね。そういうデータを機器のデータを分析をして可視化をしてっていうようなプロジェクトを展開をしています。この場合には非常に年に数回しか起きないような事象っていうのはデータ数が非常に少ないわけです。データ数が少ないときにどういうふうにうまく異常を検知するかというところで、うちのデータサイエンティストがいろんな解析を行いました。これは先ほどちょっとご紹介をした画像分析の COE チームの仕事なんですけれども、最終製品、ここでは透明のフィルムなんですけれども、最終過程でやはり一部にスポットが半濁点が出てくるみたいなものをですね、今本当に目視で、眺めていたのを、それを画像で撮って、機械学習、データ分析を行って、やはり先ほどご紹介をしたように、だんだんエキスパートの方、熟練者の方がだんだん退職をされていく中で、この場合にはその製品に対してお客さんが質問をして答えを得るという過程で、エキスパート、熟練者であれば簡単に答えられたのが、その方がいなくなってしまうと、なかなかやはりすぐには答えられない。特に化学系ですと、一つの製品を長く作っていますので、そういう知識っていうのをいかにデジタイズするかということで、 この場合には、いわゆる質問応答 QA システムというのを作ってですね、過去のその質問と答えのペアをたくさん用意しておいて、新しい質問に対して似たような質問の答えを返すというふうなものになっています。これはこの次の入江さんのご講演の中で多分詳しく語られると思うので、ここではあんまり触れませんけれども、やはり私の理解では、データ科学、データサイエンスを使って、新しい材料を探索していくっていう中で、ここはもう多くの化学企業が力を入れているところだというふうに思います。三菱ケミカルでもですね、我々もやってますけれども、三菱ケミカルのすでに R&D のチームがかなり、ここにフォーカスをして仕事を始めています。特に我々、ここの下のですね、逆推定、インバースプログラム、ある物性を与えると、それを満たす配合だったり、分子構造を推定する。これは非常に難しいんですけれども、そういうところが今、ホットなトピックになっていて、その辺を中心に活発に活動をしています。で、やはりアルゴリズムもそうですし、データベース、ナレッジベースというのが非常に重要になってきます。はい。ですね、後半は少し我々が先ほどご紹介もしたように、我々のチームは非常に小さいチームですので、いろんなプロジェクトを通じて得た経験であったり、そこから生まれたツールだったりっていうのをいかに横展開をしていくか。いかにDX、デジタルトランスフォーメーションを方法論化して皆さんに使ってもらうのかっていうことにかなり力を注いできました。やはり今非常に重要なのは本当に現場の方にいかにデジタルトランスフォーメーション変革を自分ごとにして考えてもらうか。初めやはりプロジェクト小さく始めることが多いんですけれども、やはり現場の例えば私どもですと、プラントの運転員の方がいかにこの変革をついて自分ごとにしていただくと、営業の方がいかに自分の業務を変革していくにはどうしたらいいのかを考えていく、そういうふうなツールであったり情報であったりっていうものも共有を始めています。ここに、7つ、私たちが今、デジタルメソッドと呼んでいるこれはドキュメントであったり、ウェブサイトであったり、表みたいなものであったり、教育のプログラムだったりするんですけれども、そういうものを、提供しています。例えば右上、デジタルプレイブック、これはですね、新しいビジネスモデルを考えていく上で、例えばやはり価格企業、総合価格ですと本当にいろんな製品を作っているので、事業部ごとにやはりその製造の仕方だったりお客様だったり売り方が違うと。なので私たちも一つの新しいビジネスモデルを提供するんではなくて、なんて言いますか、ビジネスモデルのコアの考え方みたいなものをレゴのように用意をして、今十数個そういうレゴブロックがあるんですけれども、それを組み合わせて、この事業部にはこれとこのレゴを組み合わせて、こっちの事業部にはあれとこれみたいな形で、新しいビジネスモデルを考えるためのプレイブックっていうのを、用意をして、これは更新も続けています。テクノロジーという意味ではデジタルテクノロジーアウトルック、これもドキュメントではあるんですけれども、やはり今非常にエマージングなテクノロジー、例えば AI もそうですし、例えば量子コンピューティングもそうかもしれないし、ブロックチェーンなんかもありますけれども、そういう技術が科学企業、あるいは我々の会社にとってどういうインパクトをもたらすのか、ということを示唆するために作っています。で、化学会社が今、例えばこの技術を使って何か始めるべきなのか、もうちょっと待っててもいいのかというような立ち位置も含めて、技術を検討していくという、戦略ドキュメントのようなものを作っています。あるいはプロジェクトキャンパスは後でご紹介をしますし、例えば デジタルマチュリティインデックスっていうのはやはりその各部門の、DX のなんて言いますかね、成熟度を測っていく。これは最近日本では、経産省から、同じようなものが出たりしていますけれども、我々もそれよりは比較的簡単な、項目なんですけれども、各事業部に、定期的に評価をしてもらって強み弱みを感じていただく。から、COE あるいは、グラスルート草の根の、データサイエンスとのネットワークっていうものを作ってですね、例えば社内コンペティションみたいなことをやってコミュニティの情勢を図っていますし、後でご紹介をするデジタルユニバーシティという、DX の、教育のプログラム、というのも走らせて、います。ということで、やはりまずはプロジェクト小さく始めてやはりどう変わるのかっていうのを見ていただいて、やってみましょうと。そこから振り返ってからもう失敗するものは早く失敗する、アジャイル的な考え方ですけれども、そこからやはりいかにスケールしていくかということを考えていく。でやはり、ラーニング学びっていうのはやっぱり継続的に行う必要があるというふうに考えています。ここでですね、2ついくつかご紹介させて、1つ目が機械学習プロジェクトキャンパスというものを、これはクリエイティブコモンズの、コピーライトで出していますので、皆さんに自由に使っていただけます。ダウンロードできますので、ぜひ使ってください。これは機械学習 AI のプロジェクトをやるときにですね、やはりよくあるのが、プロジェクトは始めたんだけれども、そもそも何が成功の基準だったんだっけと。どんなデータを使うんだろうかだとか、このプロジェクトの最終形、例えばシステムってどういう形なんだ、そもそも誰が利用者なんだろうというふうなことが必ずしも明確になった形でプロジェクトが始まらないことが多い。特にこの機械学習のプロジェクトだからですとデータがたくさんあるから何か始めてみようみたいな形で始まることが多いんじゃないかと思うんですね。そうするとやはり、プロジェクトは始めたもののなかなか成功もしないし終わることもできないということがよく起こるので、こういういろんな指標をですねあらかじめ書くことでプロジェクトの目的であったり、成功の指標というのを明確にしていきましょうという目的で書かれています。これはいろんなところで今使っていただいていて、ぜひ皆様にも使っていただければと思っています。去年からですね、デジタルユニバーシティ DX タレントデベロップメントのプログラムを始めました。これは今大きく分けると3つのコースに分かれていて、1つ目はいわゆるプログラミング、Python を使いますけれども、を使ったデータ分析のやり方を学ぶコース。これは結構ハードで、毎週1回で半年ぐらいの、コースになっています。真ん中がもう少し、お手軽な、2、3日のコースで、プログラムを最近います。で、我々主に言うとですね、生産部門の方、それから R&D 研究開発の方、それから事業部の方っていうふうに分かれる、あと共通部門の方いらっしゃいますけれども、こういう方にうまくですね、中身もカスタマイズもしながら、やはり DX をいかに自分ごとにしてもらうかっていうことにかなり注力をしています。両利きの、DX っていうものがあるんではないか。これはやはり我々特に既存の、業務、現業ビジネスを持っている製造業なんかですと、やはり連続的な持続的な変革、これは先ほどちょっとご紹介をしたケミカルプラントでの異常検知であったり、欠陥品の判別であったりと、完全にビジネスプロセスを変えるわけではないけれども、非常にやはり価値が高いもの。我々はDX だというふうに呼んでいます。それからもちろんディストラクティブな、破壊的な DX っていうのもあるはずなんですよね。これは本当に新しいビジネスモデル、製品を考えていこうと。 やはりこれを両方やっていくということが非常に重要じゃないか、というふうなことを考えています。例えば、破壊的 DX だとよくUberだとか Amazon とかが出てきますけれども、やっぱり我々必ずしも Uber になりたいわけでもないということなので、やはり両方のDX を確実にやっていくということを進めています。すみません、最後になりますけれども、少し宣伝なんですが、私たちの横のシスターグループに、ベンチャー支援、それから CVC をやっているチームがありまして、そこが今、快適チャレンジということで、代替タンパクであったり、リサイクルであったり、フード、というところで、スタートアップのアクセラレータープログラムというのを走らせていまして、ぜひ、2月の10日が締め切りになってますけれども、ご興味がある方は考えていただければというふうに思っています。
大変素晴らしいプレゼンテーションで、Thank you so much for this excellent presentation. And we have actually several questions, but due to time constraints, please let me take one question initially. I see here from Nakagawa Masato-san, originally I think from Denso and now with JST. He writes, I have been working on the automotive sector. We use the digital twin, which is very powerful technology. Do you use this digital twin technology in your chemical engineering area?
はい。我々パートナーとしては、例えば R&D、あるいは製造部門、あるいは事業部ということで、いろんなさまざまな DX の活動をやっていてですね、やはりプラント、製造部門とのプロジェクトの中で、このデジタルツインの考え方っていうのは非常に重要でし、いろんな、デジタルツインに通じるようなプロジェクト、あるいはデジタルツインに近いプロジェクトというのをいくつか実際やっています。特に例えばこのコロナの中で、例えばプラントを操業するオペレーターの方っていうのは、やはりなかなか会社を休めないんですよね。プラントの操業っていうの止められないので、そういう時に例えばこういうデジタルツインのやり方を使って、リモートで工場が操業できるようになる。なかなか科学企業では難しいんですけれども、そういうことであったり、やっぱり新しいそのサービスのモデルとしても、デジタルツインの考え方っていうのは非常に大事だなというふうに思っています。ありがとうございます。
Thank you so much. Now we would like to ask Mitsuru Idie for his presentation. Let me first shortly introduce him to you. And here we go to MI6. Well, MI6 is of course a very well-known name, but please don't confuse this. We are not looking at London Tower, but we are looking at Tokyo Tower. And so the office of MI6 Limited is very close to Tokyo Tower. And Mitsuru Irie-san studied at Tokodai, the Graduate School of Life Science and Technology, Tokyo Institute of Technology, which we are also very familiar with since they have a very nice cooperation with RWTH Aachen University. Then he worked at Mitsubishi Research Institute and a foreign IT venture before assuming the current position. He leads the business development and analysis projects at MI6. Of course, we are very keen to bring startups like MI6 also to Germany, and that is why we have been discussing various things with MI6. But today, I think is a great opportunity for you to present your company and this very interesting topic of material informatics.
Thank you very much. Okay, hello. I'm going to speak in Japanese in the presentation, but let me just introduce myself in English. I am very much honored to have this opportunity with chemical giants such as LANXESS and Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings. We're still a startup, but it's a very great opportunity for me to kind of vision how a big company, big corporations do.
Thank you so much. I think we learned a lot, and I found your presentation very impressive. Thank you so much. Now,
thank you very much.
I would like the other speakers also kindly join us. I would like to come back to a few questions our listeners and viewers have put forward. And the first question is for Jörg Elwig from Professor Nakamura, Ritsumeikan University. So he will put his question forward.
はい、ありがとうございます。ヨークさんに質問させていただきます。一つですけれども、御社の生産性向上の取り組みというののターゲットがどこなのかということと、もしそれが生産工場だった場合に、もともとやっているその会社の中のいわゆるノウハウみたいなものと、新しく入ってきたデジタルデータとかデータサイエンスっていうのがどのように調整されたのかということがお聞きしたいと思っております。よろしくお願いします。
Well, in a production plant, you're collecting a petabyte of data every single day. So you have your process control room where you usually have green and red lights, where you check your production against a specification, a plant value. And this has been done for many years, so we are highly automated for decades. So there's no plant in the LANXESS portfolio which is of substantial size, but which does not have process control. The next level, and this is the digitalization, not the automation, is that you look at your data not to run your plant, but to improve your processes. And for that, you need to bring in more data, the data you have from your actual production run, but perhaps the data you have collected over the last 5 or 10 years. And then you look at variations, you look at anomalies, you look at correlation. And this usually cannot be done in a closed system like a process control system. We use OSIPI as a data historian in our plants, or you cannot do this in an ERP system. For that, we believe you need to bring it up to a data hub, like a platform, and they're connecting all these data dots and then starting to look at options and look at process changes. Sometimes we do trials on these changes and see whether an idea, like a pain point, could be caused by this, goes into hypothesis, you add the data, and then you start running it differently. We also have an understanding that sometimes we need to change a little bit just to get more data points, to get perhaps more information about possible process changes, possible recipe changes, and then also understanding whether a recipe change or process change has a positive impact on not the output, but the CO2 emission, the sustainability of our production. And this is the key to also stay curious and take what you have learned over the last decades and combine it with something which is just basically called data analytics, or Iri-san just explained this very, very nicely, just running data through systems, learning from that, and then going into process changes and enjoy the success.
Okay, thank you. I think this next question also fits in nicely here. Axel Pilgram from Conti, he has a question. In chemical industries, production is controlled by software more than 20 or more years before. At the same time, due to having many sensors and data measured, many data have been collected since ever. However, using these started late. Question, when did LANXESS start this journey?
As I just said in my earlier answer, automation has been there for many decades. We upgrade this all the time. The real understanding that data is more valuable, and with the new tools of data analytics, we started perhaps 3 years ago. We had earlier ideas where certain areas did this on their own, but now we centralize these efforts. And one of the early decisions of the LANXESS board, based on my recommendation and other experts, was to also roll out a software called OSIPI. It's a data historian, which allows you to take data out of your process control systems and make it more valuable, because usually you only get 70 degrees, or you get 2.1 bar whatsoever. And now you get all the connections with it. And then you start working on this data. You understand you have sensors, but perhaps you need more sensors. You have a pipeline of 50 meters and you get only 0 and 50, but you might need something at 20 and 40 as well to understand whether there's any kind of valuable information missing. at these things. So we enrich the data every day, every week, every month. And in the last 3 years, we really got serious that data analytics can bring us to the next level. But we need our chemists and engineers for that. There's no software company in the world which implements a software and at the end of the first week, the solution comes out. It's impossible. Data itself is empty. Software itself is stupid. You have to bring the domain knowledge to it.
Okay, great. Now, at this point, I would like to thank, first of all, of course, all speakers, but also all guests who attended our event today. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us, one of us four here, or also in Düsseldorf. Feel free to contact us in Japanese or German, English, whatever is comfortable for you. So thank you for this. And also the presentation material will be available on our homepage next week. And we are also preparing the video for putting it onto our YouTube site. So everyone, have a nice weekend and mata ne.